A viewer asked me to read a few of their stories on their blog entitled Beautiful Invisibility, Stories from Family Genealogies, Essays on Ethical Technology. Pretty powerful name. First, I want to say a big thank you to the viewer who sent me their writing. I have said I would read what y'all have written, and he put me to the test. Mind you, it may take a while as I'm trying to balance so many things, but I meant what I said and I said what I meant. I want to read what you guys write. With that said, the author of the Beautiful Invisibility blog demonstrates why I believe writing about our ancestors is one of the strongest welding links we can forge between generations. Even when we don't know them personally, storytelling keeps their memories alive. It's emotional, it's connective, and when someone pours that much care into the writing, I want to celebrate it. If you want to read the blog, I've linked to 2 posts I'll feature in this video, but you'll find others that are truly well-written and inspiring. The first post is A Renaissance of Love Beyond the Veil. This blog post recounts the author's journey to uncover the story of his wife's great-grandaunt, Cora Bell, and her husband, Stillman Joseph. The narrative alternates between detailing Cora and Stillman's lives, including their courtship, marriage, and tragic end, and the author's investigative process involving historical records, photos, and even AI image enhancement to piece together their story. The couple's life in the late 19th and early 20th centuries in San Francisco is marked by social gatherings, careers, and eventual personal tragedies. It's all juxtaposed with the author's meticulous research, culminating in placing a memorial tribute at their crypt. The story emphasizes the importance of remembering and the role of storytelling in keeping the memory of our ancestors alive. I really appreciate how the author handled a very sensitive topic, and I do like the author's notes section at the end that invites people to get help if they are in a similar mental health crisis. This blog post was so good on so many levels. The next blog post is called The Ghost in the Glass, the Grandfather I Never Knew. This blog post recounts the author's exploration of his grandfather, Raymond Clarence, whom he never met. It begins with its discovery of a glass paperweight, pretty cool, containing a portrait of his grandfather, sparking a deep genealogical quest. The author shares details of Raymond's life in Allentown, Pennsylvania, his courtship with Esther, and his untimely death. Interwoven with the biographical narrative is the author's personal journey of research using ancestry, uncovering hidden stories, and correcting family legends. He reflects on the emotional connection to the ancestors, the impacts of their lives on future generations, and the importance of preserving family history. The post also touches on a number of different themes: seeking, loss, and the wake we leave behind when we pass away, illustrated with some examples from television shows and personal anecdotes. Ultimately, this author blends genealogical research and personal reflection on his relationship with his grandfather that he only knew as the ghost in the glass. It was very, very well written. And, not a but, and I usually don't recommend writing in first person when telling ancestor stories. It's too easy to make assumptions. We can't always speak for our ancestors or know their thoughts, so it's best to keep the focus on facts and the story. But this blog post works because it's not pretending to be a biography. It's a research journey. As a reader, I know up front I'm going to hear his reflection, what surprised him, what he guessed wrong, how a photo sparked an entire quest. That container, the Research Journey blog, gives permission for the author to include himself in the story. In fact, it adds emotion and meaning because the point is his relationship to the past. So yeah, he broke my usual rule. but within that framework, it totally worked. But here's where I want to zoom in a little. Let's say someone else finds that story someday on Ancestry or Family Search or on a shelf in a library. They start reading the story about Raymond, and instead they get pulled in and out of the ancestor's life. For instance, the story starts with Raymond Clarence was born on December 4th, 1893 in Allentown, Pennsylvania, to David and Louisa. His father was a prominent member of Allentown society, along with his uncle, who owned and operated Allentown's famous Duck Farm Hotel. Continuing on, Raymond became a young man in 1910 in the midst of the ragtime era. Sometime around 1914, Raymond met a young Allentown woman named Esther. Esther was to become the beloved grandmother in my immediate family. Oh, wait, that's a time jump. Thank you for foreshadowing, but Raymond and Esther's early courtship remains a mystery. And then another break. We read, I originally assumed they courted in 1916, the year before their wedding. I discovered my assumptions to be incorrect. Those two shifts break the flow. Suddenly, we're not in Raymond's world anymore, or we advance to the end of Esther's life. Okay, so she becomes beloved. Well, now I don't need to read from that point on because she's beloved, She didn't have any trial, and even if there is any tension, nobody's going to care. So, the immersion is gone. It's not wrong, but it's not what a lot of readers want. What's interesting is that in one of the author's posts, he explained why he doesn't use hyperlinks in his stories. Hyperlinks don't just point us to related or supplemental works. They propel us toward them. They encourage us to dip in and out of a series of texts rather than devote sustained attention to any one of them. Do you see the irony? What's ironic is that if I'm on Family Search reading the narrative or holding the book, and this flow happens, we're forced to dip in and out of the story of Raymond. But the approach isn't wrong. It's just disruptive if the reader expects a story about the ancestor. What's my advice? If you're writing about your research journey, absolutely include yourself. Absolutely project forward and ahead and say Esther is going to be a beloved grandmother. All of the techniques in the writing, totally solid. You can reflect. You can connect the dots. The stories are compelling and relatable. But I also recommend writing a second version, one that strips away your commentary and just focuses on your ancestor alone. Let it be alone, and that way you can publish to two different audiences, and your future readers can choose what they're looking for. Do they want a human journey of discovery, where it's about you with a little bit of your ancestors, or do they want a clean, immersive story about Raymond or Cora or somebody else, and they don't really care who the narrator is? Both are valuable, but they serve different purposes. If you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments below, but click the like button if you think this is worth investigating. To the author of Beautiful Invisibility, your storytelling is compelling. The opening of the Ghost in a Glass post gave me chills. And you stopped me in the attract in the one about Renaissance Beyond the Veil. I have noticed your deep respect for the past, and I want to applaud you. I hope others will go check out your blog post and give you the same praise that I have. Your post reminded me that sometimes we can bend some rules when we understand the context and set the expectations clearly for our readers. So thank you for sharing your work, and I hope you keep writing. You're doing exactly what we need more of in the genealogy community. To everyone else, if you're not sure whether to include your own voice, ask yourself two questions. First, What does the reader expect to get from this piece? Knowing that, the second question is, what's the container that I need to put that story in? The container of a research journey, a personal essay, or a published biographical narrative. If you choose to write a research journey, I do recommend that you write 2 versions. They serve 2 different audiences and connect even more deeply across generations. Plus, when you write the research journey, you can easily edit down the story to rapidly create the second story, so it's not really that much work. Let me know in the comments, do you write yourself into your ancestor stories, or do you prefer to stay behind the scenes? It's time for another viewer mailbag question. If you have a question about writing your family history, leave a comment and I might feature you in a future video. Loyal fan Linda asked a great question. Is there a tool that will help determine how to divide a family history into chapters? At first, my answer going to be a big ol' not really. Because honestly, chapter breaks just seem to happen as I write. It's like when the scene shifts or the time jumps, boom, chapter break. No rocket science, just vibes. But times have changed. And thanks to all the new AI tools out there, I've got something way more helpful to share. Enter AI Chapter Assist. If you've written a family history draft or even a big chunk of one, you can upload it to a tool like ChatGPT, Claude, or other language models. These models can analyze your writing, suggest where the natural section breaks are, propose chapter titles, and even subheadings, and even reorganize your content if you're feeling brave. Here's a prompt you can try. Please analyze this personal or family history draft and suggest where natural chapter breaks occur. Include brief titles and tell me why each break makes sense. If you want to copy and paste this prompt rather than trying to remember it and key it in, check out the blog post linked in the description box. Now here's a pro tip. Use the paid version of these tools. Free plans usually can't handle large documents. If your manuscript is, say, over 20 pages, upload it in 10-page chunks. And always review the AI's suggestions. These tools are smart, but they don't know your great-grandma like you do. So, if your family history feels like one long block of text, let AI help break it up into meaningful bite-sized chapters. Then go in and add your sparkle. I hope that helps, Linda. And if anyone else has a fun question you would like me to answer in a future mailbag or video, drop your comments and questions below.